up, friends? It is the Man in the Middle show with Kevin and Joe. I am Kevin, and that is Joe. What's up, buddy?
What's up?
It's good to be here with you again. And today we're gonna talk about solitude and embracing solitude. Big difference between solitude and loneliness. Um, you know, essentially one is chosen and one you're kind of afflicted with. Um, I think my biggest revelation around this is that you have to go through loneliness to get to solitude. I just know you can't just like step into the box of solitude and go, all right, cool. Like like a float, like a float chamber.
I have arrived.
It's not an ice bath, you know. And certainly that's been my reality as of late, spending so much time on my own. And I could definitely feel some transition in regards to that, loneliness versus solitude. Loneliness, though, Joe, just to hang there for a second, man, like shows up in so many different ways. You know, there's the idea of being uh, just lonely. You know, like so many people are so lonely now. Um, Loneliness is now an epidemic. Do you know this? The Surgeon General, I think, declared it an epidemic.
But Kevin, we're more connected than we ever have been.
Right, exactly. Well, I mean, how many friends do you have on Facebook? I mean, how can you be lonely?
Yeah. Someone liked my post.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's the great irony. Do you think that's a big part of it, Joe? Like people aren't they're sufficing with that and mentally thinking, oh, I'm connected, I'm having social exchange, but not in the physical world, and that's what's screwing people up.
Wow. Yeah, I think that we talked a little bit about this on the last episode.
Yeah,
I was kind
your
of
big decision. Yeah,
yeah, my big decision around pulling the phone from the teenager
yeah,
because it's like, would you give your kid a line of cocaine? And it's like, no, you wouldn't. So why are you giving them a phone?
right.
And so what happens, what's some of the most loneliest people you know? Well, they're drug addicts and
Yeah,
alcoholics. So if everyone's using on their phone all the time and they're addicted to this thing, it's going to automatically drive mental health issues automatically. Your
sure.
dopamine receptors are just totally wiped out,
Yeah,
and you're barely ever outside and you're
right.
barely ever connected to nature and getting outside and talking to other people.
Yeah,
It's so that's just kind of my assessment from what I see kind of just day to day on the whole. I would say my personal experience would be that we have in our culture we have highly neglected matters of the soul. It's
yeah,
just not even in a it's not even a
right,
discussion anymore.
right.
And so it's great to pursue achievements. It's great to pursue the material things that you want in life. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah,
Kevin and I are both a proponent of if you want the sports car, man, get the fucking sports car. You know, Get it. You should. You absolutely should. You only live once. You should do whatever you want. But to think that that is going to fill a hole
right,
that only spirituality or matters of the soul or that type of work is going to be able to fill, which in
right.
my case, from my experience, has only been found with connections with others,
Yeah,
helping others, you know, altruistic service of some kind that is very fulfilling. Like those are the things that I've found to combat the loneliness. And
yeah,
again, you know what's really lonely? Like waking up in a jail cell and you don't know how you got there. Like that's pretty lonely. Like you want to feel lonely. Like you can, I've done that. So I
Yeah.
know, but it's like what really made me the lonely about that and why I felt so alone was because of my neglect to love myself, honor my integrity, and live up to who it is that I should become.
Yeah.
That's so then I had to stuff myself full of everything else to try and fill up that hole, you know?
Sure. Yeah.
And that's what I see a lot of. You
Yeah.
know, everyone knows everything. So it's like, what do you
What
say?
are you searching for?
Right.
Is it? Yeah. Yeah. That's a really good point. Like the quest for something, I think combats loneliness in a big way, because if you're on a quest, you need other people. If you're truly on a quest, you're going to need assistance. You're going to need information. You're going to hopefully form new relationships towards that quest. Um, Man, it is so easy to um, blow off the things that will combat. Well, this is talking day to day. To me, the loneliest feeling is what you said is heavy, like realizing you've done it to yourself, you've abandoned yourself. But I think something that everybody experiences at some point is the idea of feeling alone when you're surrounded by people.
Mm.
Like that's a like whoa, because I think that isn't always the case. And then you have introvert, extrovert. I'm talking like beyond that, when you're in a situation that you've been in many times to your full enjoyment, and suddenly no longer feeling joy when you're in them. I think that's a sign of the middle passage. Um,
Bro, I could never be alone. I was that extrovert that always had to be doing something and always had to be around other people, always had to be in a relationship.
hmm,
Being being by myself was the last thing I ever wanted to do, ever.
Interesting.
Because then I had to sit with myself
Right.
and my own thoughts. Oh my God, who the hell wants to do that? Oh my
Man,
God.
I'm the opposite. So I spent the first 10 years of my adult life uh, alone, essentially doing, ironically, stand-up comedy, which forces you to be very present for 30 minutes to an hour. But you've heard this from, and this, your father was a musician. It's the other 23 hours in the day that fuck you over and lead to it's the boredom, it's the isolation of the loneliness of being stuck in a hotel room. You hear famous musicians all the time say, like, I've been all over the world and I've seen none of it. It's just all buses, planes, and hotel rooms, because I'm being, like Mick Jagger. There's a great documentary about the Stones doing a the culminates in them doing the show in Cuba, first rock concert in Cuba, and I don't know, since Fidel Castro took over, right? It was amazing. But there's a scene, I think he's in Argentina, and he goes to like a sacred, I don't know if it's like I think it's like a cemetery or something, but they had to close the place down for him to just walk around it and experience it. So even when he gets to go out, it's he can't have relationships. He can't interact and necessarily meet new people unless it's been arranged and they cleared some whatever. Um, Point being, that was kind of my experience. Although I saw a lot of malls. That's what comics do to kill the afternoon. They just go to the local shopping mall and sit around and look at shit they can't afford and make fun of people. That's how you pass the days as a stand-up. Um, but yeah, man, that the feeling lonely when you're surrounded by people. And when I quit comedy, um, the moment I knew it was over, I was sitting in the back of the room. The guy on stage is introducing me, and I'm looking around the room, and I'm thinking, I would give anybody in this room every dime I have to go pretend to be me right now and do these freaking jokes that I can barely regurge one more time. And I was like, okay, that's over. And then and obviously it's funny how, people can feel things about you that you don't realize. So I'm on stage, I'm going through the motions, and in my mind, it's like, okay, I'm getting through this. It's not my greatest set. And then out of nowhere, I'll never forget this heckle, greatest heckle I ever got. This voice comes out of the darkness and goes, "Man, is it me or is something weird?" And he just announces the elephant in the room to everybody. And it was like so interesting and like caring of him to, like, what is going on? Like, something's off. Like, this guy's telling jokes. We're kind of laughing, but what is weird? And I said, no, man. I said, it's not you, it's me. And what's weird is that I don't want to be here right now.
You said that out
Yeah, I
loud.
said that to him. Yeah. And we just talked it out. And I'll tell you what, after that, I had a really good set because, first of all, comedy's always better when you're forced to be in the moment. You know, you're not just reciting. And I was having this real moment, and they were like supportive. I kind of went on this rant about what it's like to live on the road in these shitty hotels, and then they were amused because they were actually hearing something interesting instead of my little dick jokes. And not a little dick. I don't have a little dick. They were just my little big dick jokes.
Just a humble guy with a big dick.
Hey, I didn't ask for it. It's more of a burden than anything, Joe. Careful what you wish for, my friends. No, but anyway, uh, and I just think, what do we do about it? So for me, I was remarking about on you never wanting to be alone. I was fucking great at it. I was great at it. It would feel weird and strange and difficult and challenging for me to come home for the holidays and be around family because I was so used to the solitude, and you build up immunities and barriers. And when you have to break out of that now and you're surrounded by people you love, who giving you love, and what's supposed to be joy of the holidays, spirit, and all those things, it would just feel like kind of like torture to me. Just because I was so unfamiliar with it. It was painful. And I think I knew I had to now let all that go. Like some interactions fuel you and like fill your tank, and then you can go. But other ones, they fill you in some ways, but it's a glaring reminder that it's not something you have in your life because of your circumstances. And so it almost makes it more difficult to have it than not to have it.
Dude, what that experience with that guy on stage
Yeah.
reminds me of the Young quote where he says, loneliness does not come from having no people around you, but from being unable to communicate the things that seem so important to you.
Mm,
And it's like one of the things that I live by is we're only as sick as our secrets,
right.
and a problem shared is cut in half, a joy shared is doubled. And one
Mm,
of the big things, like we were just talking about, is like you got immediate relief as soon as you weren't alone with that anymore.
yeah.
Like you said, oh, I went and had a fantastic set because you weren't alone with what was most
Yeah.
important to
Yeah.
you at that moment.
That's
And
exactly what it was.
and so we circle back to like what I was saying about social media and the jabs that we were making at that. There's a very different uh connection that happens when you share that with somebody honestly in person and that energy's in the room than when you're sharing it online on social media for attention.
Oh, yes. God.
You know what I mean? So it's
Yes.
like I'm getting this out of me, even though I'm really afraid to share it with you in the first place. So now I'm leveraging courage to share it with you and get over myself, reduce my ego. And then all of a sudden, I have this just humongous relief because now I'm actually part of the world and I'm not trapped in in the prison of my own mind, of my own
Mm.
thoughts, my own fear, my own inadequacies, and my own shit, you know? And so all those years that I spent in crowds, I wasn't ever really there. I was showing up in whatever they needed me to be and playing a chameleon. And it
Right.
wasn't really until I began to embrace solitude as a way of being and being able to sit with myself and not hate myself and enjoy that serenity that I was able really then to go back out into the world and be my true self.
Right.
Because you know, so it's like, okay, and there's just so many instances of that where it's like, if we just get honest,
Yeah.
if we just get honest about, like Jung said, and communicate the things that are really important to me to
Right.
others that are around, then I'm no longer alone with it and I can let you in. And
Dude.
you know, it's just so it's there. That's it.
Yeah. But well, you just touched on something so big to me that my disdain for social media, you just solved for me. The thing that always, when I see it, and I'm like, I'm just never logging in here because this exists and it's so fucking stupid. People looking for any event in their life to get sympathy for. Oh, need prayers. Headed to the doctor, and well, fucking go to the doctor. Like, this is good. We need prayers. Like, you know, how are we categorizing the need for prayer? You know, if you had a horrible accident and one thing, it's like, yeah, like maybe people should know. But if you see what I mean, it's like, man, if you get, it's almost like, oh, this is great. I'm in a hospital gown. Like, this is gonna kill it. This post is gonna kill it. It's almost like, oh, a free birthday post. And then people will come on and they get all these posts, and then they're like, I just want to thank everybody for, you know, really made my day. It's like, I feel so blessed. All the, I'm like, I have so many fucking DMs from the only DM I get is happy birthday, from the same person that I've never met year after year. It's the only way I know them whatsoever. They're just clicking buttons. It means nothing. It's nice to know, but you know this, Joe. It's the people who see that it's your birthday and text you privately to go, hey, bro, just it's awesome, man. You know, you go, oh, well, that's a real friend.
Because they have
Everything,
your phone number.
yeah. But my point being, this is what you cracked the code on for me. It's that pretend courage to say the thing that's most important to you. How many times have we seen somebody's big come to Jesus post? Hey, oh, I just got to get this up. And, you know, look, I'm not saying it can't be meaningful, but have you told anybody in real life? Because, and here's the point for me that you just opened up. Online, you can ignore or dismiss even if somebody gives you advice you don't appreciate or like. When you say it to another human face to face, you got to sit there and absorb the energy of how they're receiving that news and talk through it, probably for a long time, and actually explore in one linear conversation what this all means and what to do with it. That is something you do not get when there's an audience.
Yeah, one is ego deflation and one is ego inflation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And in terms of how you're describing it. And its base foundational terms, that's what it is.
Yeah. Exactly right. You have to, well, which side do you see it on? Ego deflation is the sincerity to look somebody in the eye who you know cares about you and admit something. You're
E-
deflating your ego so that you can grow, or you flipping it the other way.
Ego deflation is what you did on stage. There's
Right.
nothing egotistical about you did. It was the exact opposite.
Got you. Right. That's
You
what I
know,
was
it's
right.
rather than, oh, I have it all together. It's, you know
Just
what, man? I don't want to fucking be
I'm
here.
fucking
You know
yeah,
what I
it's like
mean?
I'm ripping you people off right
Yeah,
now.
yeah.
And I'm sorry.
Yeah. Make
You
sure you hit your
showered.
2 drink minimum and tip the
Yeah.
waitress. Yeah.
Yeah.
But then
You
the
lift
other one is attention seeking.
right. That's inflation. Right.
Yes.
Exactly.
And I
Yeah.
need that in order to feel okay about myself.
Yeah, that's the disease, dude. And this is why loneliness is now an epidemic. And again,
And
it's like we rail against social media. And I tend to feel like people know this, but maybe they don't. I think it's like one thing people can do is check themselves, and especially again, men who are feeling lonely, isolated. Do you have an instinct to share uh, things on Facebook or wherever your chosen platform is, as if it's an obligation? Oh shit, I haven't posted in a couple of days. Oh, I got it. If that's a tick you have or like an instinct you have, I would check that. And if that's your choice, it's totally fine. But I want to make sure you know that nobody fucking cares. None of it's real. Um, it's all immediately forgotten the minute it's ingested. But more importantly, is it robbing you of what would be a more meaningful experience if you chose better an outlet for that conversation? Because I think that's the real danger.
yeah. Yeah. I mean, one of the biggest things about the midlife journey, this transition, is the reduction of the ego, which
Yeah.
has been over dominant up until this point in childhood and first adulthood.
Right.
And then kind of moving into the deeper significance, right? Like Hollis says, into the deeper significance of human existence,
Exactly.
which again is what I was talking about earlier. And that's the matters of the soul, right? It's like this deeper part of life that's totally neglected. And there's nothing about me, you know, reaching to the depths of my soul when I'm attention seeking for likes and
Yeah.
comments on social media. It's purely ego driven, low consciousness behavior that I should definitely take a look at if I'm doing that and say, okay, um, when's the last time I took some stellar advice from somebody I was, you know, requesting something of on Facebook, or that I was, get asking for advice there. It's just not like maybe once or twice in
If it's
a
about an
decade.
appliance or something
Right.
very
Yeah.
practical.
Yeah. 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 So, well, what about, so then on the other side of that, right?
Mm-hmm.
From and you said it great. You said, I found solitude by way of loneliness,
Yeah.
right? So in your mind, it's like, okay, maybe there's people out there that are still at where I was at, and they can't sit still enough to be alone by themselves.
Yeah.
But what would you say to them in terms of how you've found it so powerful for yourself?
You mean the solitude?
Solitude, yeah, because you're there. You're in
Yeah.
it.
I would say that like everything else, it has its dangers. Um, when I write in my gratitude journal in the morning, uh, it's always like 3 things I'm super grateful for and 3 things I want to change. And pretty consistently, the thing I want to change is like get the fuck out of the house. Find a way to. And look, like I go to the gym, but I don't. Nobody talks to each other at the gym. That's the rule. There's no chit chatting at the gym. Um, and and but even that, just being in the energy of other people is helpful. Um, so the danger is that you don't engage. I think it's all about forcing yourself just to be instructional about it. you know, like for instance, Joe, I don't know the stats on this or if there are any, but people really struggle to read books now because you, again, the addiction of the phone is just an unconscious itch to grab for it. And there may be a little red dot somewhere that needs your attention, even though it doesn't at all. And so, you know, then you're distracted and God forbid you open the thing and you're gone. And so that you know, it's like, I can't finish a book anymore. Well, you're fucking reading a bunch of other shit in the middle of the chapter, you know? Um, um,
You
so,
check
but
your Instagram likes twice during the chapter.
yeah, right. It's like, I don't want to remember what I read.
Mm.
So I think you have to force yourself. Boredom. That's the other thing the phone has done is like cured boredom. Well, boredom is valuable psychologically, like
Mhm.
super valuable. Get back to being bored, even if just at night. Sleep deprivation is another huge issue in the world because of the phones. And so I would say, like, uh, when you go to bed, you know, yeah, and I get it. Look, you may need it nearby for an emergency or something if you have children or whatever, but don't pick it up. Put it far enough away, put it across the room, and just fucking lay there and have your thoughts. Remember when you were a kid, if you're of a certain age before all this shit was in our lives, I vividly remember my thoughts and routines after going to bed because you have a bedtime when you're a kid and that's it. You're forced to sit there in the dark, right? Dude, I had imaginary friends. Maybe this says something about me in solitude too. I don't fucking know. But I had a whole group of imaginary friends and I was like the leader. These were my buddies. And it's not like I didn't have friends in the real world. I wasn't in it, you know, it's like any other kid. But for some reason I made up. But it takes a lot of imagination to create a friend group in your mind and keep up with them nightly. And we would go on little adventures and shit. And I'm like, I wonder what it would take for me to get back to a place where my mind was clear enough to do that. Just not even forget the age and responsibility and all the shit that's floating around in there, but just in practice of sitting and being quiet with your mind. Um, so if you know, do and then loneliness, you know, look, I think that's a bigger issue. Solitude, I think you first of all, you have to want to get to solitude. And the reason I said, you know, just practice in moments, meditate, relax, do nothing for just 20 minutes, an hour, like literally sit and fucking do nothing. Don't watch TV, no screens, and just how restless are you? You always call that like one thing I've been doing for a while is like checking my energy. I'll just check my energy, right? If you're having a moment where you're kind of pissed off and you're like, bah, 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 and I'm like, I'll just go, whoa, dude, like what led to this? Like check in, and it takes like a second to go, oh well, that happened and that pissed me off, and then I read that email and fuck it, nah, I gotta, okay, whoa, let's just pour the fucking coffee without spilling it again, and let's just take this one step at a time. And you can feel when you become aware of it, your energy just drops. You can literally easily control your energy if you're conscious enough to do it. So it starts with wanting to get to a place of more calmness and maybe eventually solitude. And I think it can look, it's just the use of it will be different for every person. Some people may just need to check in with it and get some of it. Other people, um, like me, just need a lot of it and embrace it. But I think the first step is, does it scare you and can you even achieve it momentarily? Because if not, then that's definitely something to work on.
Yep. Yeah. One of the things that, from my own experience, that I would say as somebody that was incredibly lonely and super extroverted and had to be around people all the time. And very much like you were saying before, in terms of with the phones and other things, just constant stimulation,
Yeah.
constant. The brain gets no breaks, you know?
Yeah.
And so mine, the discovery of solitude for me was incredibly powerful, because all I ever wanted when I decided to change my life in 2009 um, was to be able to sit quietly in a room by myself and not have my mind attack me. That's
Mm,
all I wanted, man.
mm,
And you can't put a price on that. You can't put a price on being able to sit in some semblance of peace
yeah,
and serenity in your within your own company. And so for me, the difference of what I discovered between loneliness and solitude is loneliness, I was always coming from a place of lack. So
yeah,
there was some hole within me that I needed to fill,
yeah.
and just that total emptiness.
Yeah.
And whether I was alone or in public had very little to do with what was going on intrinsically with me in those moments. Uh, Solitude is become a place for me where I am sitting filled, and it's a place for self discovery and self exploration, um and looking inward to be able to ask myself the important questions that no one else can ask me about my life. And and so um, it's become one of the most powerful tools that I've had in order to, determine who it is that I am, who this self that I say that I am, um, and transform my life. And now it's one of my favorite things to do. Is just be by myself. And
Yeah.
if you ask this guy, 20 years ago, I would have said that sounds like the most miserable thing I would ever want to do. I'd never
Yeah.
want to do that. So I think the big thing for me is that it's a place where you can go where no one else is there. And so like Hollis says. I love this Hollis quote. He says, "We are not here to fit in, be
Mm,
well balanced, or provide exempla for others. We are here to be ourselves, to expand our capacity for life, explore our souls."
whew,
And so the big thing is that if I'm always around everybody, I'm on my phone, I'm
yeah.
in with this or that, I am feeling the constant pressure all the time of societal roles,
Yeah.
cultural expectations, and I can't ever think for myself.
Right.
What do I want?
There's no processing. Yeah.
No, there's none of that. It's just matter of showing up for what's best right then.
Yeah.
If I can get to myself, get quiet, then maybe I can start figuring out some things for me. And these are the important questions to ask, because all of us in some capacity have gone full charge into all the things that everyone else expects us to be. And
Right.
we've set aside very little time, whether it's just because you're the head of the household and everyone's relying on you and there's all that pressure, maybe you're the sole provider, all this stuff. You're always last.
Yes.
We always know dad's last. Titanic's going down, men last. You know what? Actually, we're just going to stay on the fucking boat. You guys go ahead, right? And I'm not
Yeah.
saying that that's not what we shouldn't do. But what I'm
Yeah.
saying is that that's all the pressure that we have. So it makes it even harder for you to say, dude, I need like 30 minutes by myself. And maybe your wife's looking at you like, are you fucking stupid? What's that like? That sounds good. Can I
Yeah.
have that too?
100%. They,
So,
yeah.
you know what I'm
Because,
saying? Like, so what it's like, but if you don't take care of that, then you're going to continue going on doing what you've always done, doing, getting what you always got.
100%. I think everybody needs it, honestly. And I know probably a picture of a woman listening to this thinking, another, are you fucking kidding me? Which is kind of what you were saying, which is all I do is accommodate you. And now you need solace, solitude, quiet. Fuck you. Like I work all day to make sure nobody knocks on your door while you're working. If you work at, and it's like, yes, but it's different because there's a lot of shit going on in my head and I need somewhere to put it. And so I think in some respects, it's less of a male female thing in that regard and just like a human thing because people
Totally a human thing.
don't give themselves. I want to ask you, Joe, because that's a remarkable, like, was it because of your sobriety that you that were allowed to develop the consciousness that you needed that and then were able to facilitate it? Or like what led you to say, I'm going to make sure I figure out how to sit alone and think?
Oh man, everyone's going to hate me for this, Kevin.
Oh boy.
Practice.
But how dare you? I have red dots with my name on them.
It's everyone wants to do everything other than the work.
Yeah.
You can't avoid this. There's no 6-minute abs. You're laughing harder because we're marketers. There's no such thing. There's no such thing as me being immediately okay with sitting with myself, quiet in a room.
All right.
I started with 5 seconds, 10 seconds, right? Shutting my brain off. You know, I went hard on some Buddhist stuff for about 2 years.
Yeah.
Temple and everything. That helped a lot. Learning how to meditate. Learning,
Yes.
wow, holy shit, you can control your mind? I thought it was in control. You know, no, it's not. It is sometimes when you get touched on buttons that are unconscious, and then all of a sudden you're like, whoa, what was that? Great. Now I know what it is I need to work on because it's out. But so what I would say is that it takes practice, man. You know, last year, quick story. Last year I went on a solo trip. I went to California for 2 weeks. I did Tahoe, Yosemite, Sequoia. Work all day, work on my outline for my book, go hiking by myself in the evenings, or I'd go in the mornings. And quite often there was times where I didn't see another human being for 3 to 4 hours.
Yeah.
And I'm just in the forest. And I loved every minute of that. And the constant theme that kept coming up for me was there's no way and would I have ever been able to do this 15 years ago. I wouldn't have had the capacity to even do something. I wouldn't even have enjoyed it. And so now you get into that and it's like, this is the most magical space I could be in because I'm in a space where I enjoy who I'm around. And that's a fantastic place to be. But now, since you're at that kind of level of peace, you can begin to ask yourself the questions that you never asked yourself before. And although that may create new disturbance, that's the whole point. That self-discovery is the and that peace that you get from the solitude is the place in which personal growth can begin to occur because you're finally asking yourself the meaningful questions in order to expand your consciousness, you know?
100%. Yeah. It's getting past avoidance. Right? I mean, that's what all the distraction is avoidance.
Yeah.
And when you walk alone in the foot, and by the way, I can hear the branches cracking under your feet and the wonder of the forest and the trees and the wildlife, man. I mean, that's so primitive, dude. That's another thing. It's like, wasn't that fucking long ago when that is how we lived and roamed the earth and survived? To know what was under our feet and around the corner and up over the hill. Uh, and now, fucking GPS. I get lost in my own town sometimes.
Yep.
Not because I don't even use GPS, but my mind wanders, and I'm like, what the fuck am I? Like that would never, but it never happens when I'm in this new place now. I've never passed the street accidentally because I have to pay attention. Oh, that's right. Here comes the turn. You know what I'm saying? So this unconsciousness just creeps in if you don't challenge yourself, put yourself in, it's the whole get out of your comfort zone thing, and do the thing that maybe was never for you. Like you're saying, 20 years ago, Joe, you want to go walk in the forest? Why don't you go fuck off? Like I'll be at the bar. There's like,
yeah,
there's different stimulation leads to very different outcomes. And you have to, if you want something different than what you're experiencing now, you have to make a conscious effort to find different stimulation. And sometimes that stimulation is silence.
it's the seeking aspect of it that you brought up earlier.
Yeah. You have to want
And
to.
when I went to the forest, I wasn't looking for answers.
Mm-hmm.
I went into the forest looking for questions.
What made you take the trip and choose to be alone?
Well, typically that's kind of a harder time for me every year. There's a 5 week period. My ex and I split the summer with my son. So not having my son for 5 weeks straight has been really rough for me.
Hmm.
So I typically, year after year, I've really dived into work or, stuff like that. Not that my wife and I don't do anything during those times as well. We've taken some trips and stuff like that, but I'm like, I've never done anything by myself, man, in my whole life. That was the
Wow.
first time. That was the first time I ever went anywhere like that by myself,
Wow.
ever in my whole life. And I
What a
was
trip.
41 at the time.
Damn.
Yeah. So it was something that I was being called to do and that I needed to do for me. And thankfully, I have an amazing wife that was excited for me
Yeah.
and wanted me to do that. Oh, and listen, see, so let's think, let me dive into this real quick because this is exactly what I'm talking about as far as societal pressure and cultural expectations. Bro, I had people messaging me on Facebook asking me if Allie and I were okay because I was on a trip by myself.
Wow. Wow.
There was friends and family members messaging Allie and myself to
Wow.
ask if everything was okay with us
What a trip.
because it's so far outside of the norm to go
Mm-hmm.
and do something for yourself and not be tied to your spouse. Like you guys are Bradgelina or Benifer or whatever the fuck is, that people want to do now. Like my wife are both very focused on our own individuation processes and
Yeah.
what that takes for one another
Yeah.
individually, not looking to the other like you're my everything.
Right.
Like, yeah, I get that. And yes, two parts come together to make a whole. But then she went later that year on a trip to Taos, New Mexico. She wanted to do the desert. And
Yeah.
she went and did that. And it was so huge and expansive for her,
Right.
you know? But it's like, bro, I didn't, neither one of us went there seeking answers. We went there for self exploration to seek new questions, to dive deeper into what it is that we need to be asking ourselves so that way we can expand. And that doesn't happen staring at my phone alone at my bed at 12:30 a.m. on a Tuesday. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Saying the algorithm doesn't know what you need, Joe.
Yeah, sorry, I'm getting like super soapboxy here. So let me
No, it's true though.
let's wrap this up, and I'm gonna read a quote from Carl Jung on solitude. Tell me
Okay.
what you think, and we'll finish here. I have often seen people become neurotic when they content themselves with inadequate or wrong answers to the questions of life. They seek position, marriage, reputation, outward success, money, and remain unhappy and neurotic even when they have attained what they were seeking. Such people are usually confined within too narrow a spiritual horizon. Their life has not sufficient content, sufficient meaning. If they were able to develop into more spacious personalities, the neurosis would disappear.
Hmm. Damn. That's it. And like you said, practice. First of all, you have to embrace that this would be helpful, and then you have to start slow and get there. Turn off the noise. Uh, be conscious of when you are in avoidance, even in small things. And yeah, change it. I mean, isn't it funny, dude, that we're having to discuss the need to do nothing? How fucked up is that? In both of our lifetimes, I got what, 10 or so years on you. In both of our lifetimes, we were yelled at for not doing anything, for not doing more. Right? What are you doing? Hey, now nobody has that problem, and we need to get back to chilling the fuck out and sitting and listening.
I'm bored.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
My mom was like, "Well, there's some laundry you could be
I
folding."
know, I
You
know.
might-
Worst thing you could say. I'm
Yeah.
bored. Oh
Yep.
yeah, you motherfucker. Well, let's change that.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, and I'll wrap us up here, Kevin,
Yeah.
because one of the things that you and I are very, very passionate about with this show is making sure that people begin to realize that it's time you're stepping into midlife. It's time to stop seeking all of the answers, and it's time to start asking questions. So if
Yeah.
and that takes practice in itself, because
100%.
we're indoctrinated from an educational system that creates an addiction to answers. Study this, memorize this,
Right.
test on this, grade it on this, don't know the answer, get in trouble, blah blah blah. We have to flip that to say, okay, what questions? What is this teaching me about myself? Why am I feeling this way? What is it I'm lacking? Whatever questions begin to surface, just begin to start asking questions.
I would even change one word of that, because asking feels like I could do it wrong. I would say allow questions.
Mm.
Just allow
Yep.
questions. Don't shoo them away. Don't label them as important or unimportant. If they come up anywhere in your mind or in your life more than once or twice, just sit with it. Allow the questions.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much for joining Kevin and I today. It's been incredible. Loved hearing about the comedy. This was a bit.
Something's
You
weird.
guys, if this is something that has been powerful for you, and maybe you know someone in your life that would benefit from this episode or any of our episodes, please, please, please share it.
Yes.
Sharing is caring, and nothing would be more meaningful to Kevin and I than sharing this with other people that need it. Make sure you subscribe, and if you feel so inclined, shoot us a review. You're always happy to reach out to Kevin and I on social. You can find us, just search our names, and we'll see you next time, guys.